last one out of these series that we've done. Board of Educations don't normally get as much attention. I think they should. It's half the spending in our county is in the MCPS, so it's important to get to know the candidates who are running for that office. It's a little different animal in terms of elections. They're all elected at large, so these candidates, even though some of them are actually running to represent people in District 3, are actually running at large as well. So you'll still see names from some of these candidates on the ballot because they're all at large. So I think that's why it's important to have this discussion. We usually start out with opening comments, but because we've got some really important questions and quite a few of them that were submitted by people and community people wanted us to ask, we'll forego that. We'll let you have a closing comment if that's okay. We'll start off with questions right off the bat. And the way we do this, we've been very objective on it. We always start with one candidate, and then the next time I don't start with the same candidate. I go to another candidate, so you're not always asked the first question. The names are also set up. I just put names in a hat and just set up that way, so that, again, was done as equally as we could. So your moderator tonight is Ed Reed, and I'll let him introduce himself, and we'll get going. Thank you.
And welcome to Poolesville in the Western Montgomery County area, and so we're glad to have you here. Once again, I'm Ed Reed. I'm one of the commissioners, and over here we have a commissioner president, Jim Brown. We also have two of our other commissioners. We have Alan Hobbs. Alan Hobbs, raise your hand, please. All right, we have Brian Buck as well. All right, let me just check everyone off. So we're only missing two. We got Sarah, we got Sally up there.
Hi, Brenda. How are you?
And then we also have members of our Fair Access Committee, of our Fair Access Committees. We have Derek and Nancy here. And so we're going to dive right in. Link has given you just the parameters for what we're going to do.
1 minute per question, by the way, for the answers. Okay?
All right. And then you have Jim's going to be your timekeeper. So he'll let you know when there's 30 seconds, 10 seconds, and when it's time to stop. All right. So first question. So for many years, MCPS had a reputation of being a gem, helping to provide opportunities for our students, serving as a major attraction to businesses wanting to locate here, and strengthening our communities. Now there's serious debate about the performance of our school system. Which declines in our school system's performance over the past 5 to 10 years do you see as the highest priorities to address, and what reforms are needed in your view, and what outcomes do you hope to achieve if you were elected to serve on the board? And we'll start with Lazo.
Thank you very much for the question. I come from a business background. I'm a business major, and I think one of the things that I've seen, especially going out into the community, going out to the different parts of the county, is obviously the state of our facilities. And when we look at our budget, I mean, it's something that is alarming to me, the fact that we're in pretty bad shape. We have to be honest about things. I mean, we're $750 million in the hole for HVAC. That's something that doesn't happen in 5 years, 10 years. It's something that's been going on for a long time. Now, in order to have resources for, to turn MCPS and, the level of excellence back around, we're going to need money. We're going to need resources, equity, our facilities. Everything is going to need resources. So for me, it's making sure that we can finally get our budget balanced and we can get those resources that we need.
Ms. Diaz.
Thank you, everyone, for having me tonight. So I think the largest decline has been in our academics. My major focus has always been and will continue to be restoring and rebuilding the foundation of academic excellence within MCPS. We know that many of our Black and Hispanic students, they are scoring very low with their reading and their writing and their math scores. Something like about 48% of our Black students are not proficient at the 3rd grade level in reading. By the time they hit overall, the score for Algebra 2 is something like 22% of our students at the 8th grade level can pass an algebra test. So these are serious numbers. What would I do to reform this, to change this? In terms of our literacy program, I would make sure that our students are getting grade-appropriate assignments. MCPS has only started to do that. I would have after-school tutoring programs in math. I would introduce whole books, and I would focus almost all of our effort, tie every single dollar to academic excellence.
Do we want Sally to go?
We got an order on here. we'll get Sally last. Okay, but Brett, you're up.
So I think I agree a lot with Omar. Our school facilities are crumbling right before our eyes. 10 years ago, FY17, the budget for the school system was $2.5 billion. This year, the school system asked for $3.78 billion. That's a 50% increase over 10 years. Add to that, they're asking for $2.7 billion in bonds. Does anybody feel that we've improved 50% over the last decade? What we need to do is have people who are going to do rigorous oversight of our system. They got to make sure that these schools are getting repaired, that they're doing it on time and on budget. We have to look for savings every place we can because we're just not getting it done at this point. If your kids are sweltering in the summer and freezing in the winter, they will not learn regardless of how good the school system is and regardless of how good the lesson plans are. Thank you.
Okay, next, Ms. Sung.
Thank you. I would say that class size as well as enrollment, excuse me, are both major factors. I know our enrollment is down countywide, and I know I even had a PTA president tell me that she is considering homeschooling her children based upon how things are currently going, which I feel like says much. So I believe that getting our class sizes back down to appropriate classroom management sizes, as well as getting our enrollment back up. Those seem counterintuitive, but they're all very important. And because some people are like, well, I want to pull my kids to make sure that the county has all the resources they need. I'm like, that's the opposite. It does the opposite. Don't do that. So I think we need to do a lot of education as well as to how the county gets its funding, especially from the state and the federal levels, so that people can keep making sure that they're getting their kids the education that they want without having to necessarily turn to private schools themselves. Thank you.
Ms. Creed.
I think the main problem for our Board of Education is they do not educate. So I would like to propose to set up like age 3 years old, start kindergarten. So the kids can study early. Also, I would like to propose to add 1 hour before the school start as a tutoring time. Also add 1 hour after school for the student to get more support. We would like to see the evaluation of each student improve their MAP score. That means longer study hours, more tutoring from the school teachers, and also means more funding give to the class itself. We should reduce the waste we put on those boundary studies, we put on the useless analysis. We should use those money. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question. You know, my family and I moved here in 1998 for the schools. My husband was heading up an office in Virginia, and I did my research, and I said, honey, you're going to have a long commute because we're going to move to Montgomery County because the schools are really good. And, you know, yeah, things have changed, right? My oldest is 35, my youngest is 14. And I'm going to cheat a little bit, though, because unfortunately, it's really hard to decide because we have so much going on. So I'm going to say our reading and math data absolutely has to improve, and we can do that. So as a board member, I would hold MCPS accountable to going deeper in those relationships with our trusted community stakeholders who are adept at doing that and helping our kids increase their scores, like a college tracks, like a Saturday school, which I am well-versed in and work with those organizations all the time. And I'm also going to say CIP, right? If our infrastructure isn't well, where are our kids going to learn? They can't learn if they're not feeling safe, to Brett's point here, and to many of my colleagues' point here. Thank you.
Okay. And last but not least, Sally?
Hi, thank you. Yeah, there are two ways the board can make transformations in the outcomes that have declined over probably the past 15 years. And the first is looking at the budget, the operational budget, and I would look at what are we doing, how are we utilizing our K through 3 resources with our reading specialists, how are we going to comply with the blueprint, which has massive changes coming down for mathematics education. Do we consider math specialists at the K through 5 level? We can't expect improved outcomes if we're not focusing those resources. And then the second is CIP. HVAC, obviously, we've got 2 high schools that have not had the CIP programs they need, and we need to look outside of MCPS, not just at bonds, but at public-private partnerships. And actually, for the past 3 years, I've testified before the board and the county council on the need to pursue that.
All right, thank you. Now, we're going to make a slight adjustment to your time. So instead of giving you a minute, we're going to increase it by 30 seconds. So we'll give you a minute and 30 seconds to answer the questions instead of a minute. So we're going to go to the second question. We'll start with Ms. Diaz. All right, so there have been a number of incidents recently in our school system in which children were put in danger at school due to violence or threats of violence, including the use of guns. This has raised the issue of security in the schools, including the limitations of MCPS resources like restorative approaches and the street outreach network, where it's a partnership with Montgomery County Department of Health and Human Services. And these outreach initiatives, they don't completely fill the void of connecting with our students beyond school grounds and having key partners to help students feel and stay safe. The question is, what are your views on reinstating SROs, school resource officers, and what else can be done to address this issue? And we'll start with Ms. Diaz.
So I strongly believe that we need to bring back our school resource officers into all of our schools, especially at the high school level. If you think about the size of our high schools here in MCPS, they are the size of towns in this country. Anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 students are in those school buildings every single day at the high school level, yet somehow the county council, the county executive, and the board have all allowed for them to be left at risk to gun violence. And what has been the result since then, as the sir has mentioned, the gentleman has mentioned, that there's been lots of gun violence on campus. So bring back the school resource officers. Our school administrators were in full support of keeping them in our buildings. The county council and the board did not listen to their support. And we know and I know personally speaking with former school resource officers, that they want to come back and build those relationships with our students. When I was at Gaithersburg High School, I saw them build those relationships. I saw them, and they are not involved in the disciplinary issues that happen on a regular basis in the school building. A lot of people are concerned that by bringing SROs, that we would be funding or putting through the school-to-prison pipeline. Do you know what the school-to-prison pipeline is? It is illiteracy in this county. When you cannot read at the 3rd or 4th grade level, the rate of you being able, like being imprisoned, is something like 2/3 of the population. Something like 70% are illiterate in our prisons today.
All right, Mr. DeResta.
Montgomery County is one of the most diverse counties in the country. It is diverse in many ways. It's diverse in economically, religion, topography. The idea that there is a one-size-fits-all policy that's going to work in every place in this county, from the east to the west, from the north to the south, is foolish. We need to provide some flexibility to the schools so they can choose the approach that works best. I have talked to people all over this county. I've talked to people who feel that if you put cops in schools, their kids will be targeted. That is not the life my children lead, and I think it would be really, I don't want to say arrogant, but I think it would be wrong for me to tell those people, you are wrong to feel that way. On the other hand, I have talked to many parents who are exceedingly concerned about the growing violence in the schools. I think we have to allow schools to have the flexibility to choose what is best for their school. I also think this goes back to infrastructure. I talked to a principal. I asked them about security. One of the biggest problems they have is broken locks. Whether you have an SRO or a CEO, if you have your back door open every day, it doesn't matter. We have to make sure that these schools have flexibility to fix these problems when they can, as fast as they can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Song?
Thank you. So I was in middle school when Columbine happened. I'm pushing 40, and we're still at the same spot where we were many years ago. So school safety is very important to me. That being said, SROs are not the answer. The data is out there. I don't know if you guys know this, but SROs were there for Parkland's shooting. They were there for the Uvalde shooting, and they didn't save any lives that day. Many students died. So I'm not sure why we think school resource officers are the answer. There is so much data that is like my number one thing about showing how school resource officers do not help students feel safe, especially students who are not white. I am white. My children are biracial. I feel very passionately about how others feel whenever they are in a situation. If someone tells me that does not look like me, that they are uncomfortable, I believe that person. Do you know why? I have not walked in their shoes a single day, but I am empathetic as heck, and I believe them when they say, I am not comfortable with this, and if they say that a school officer being there makes them on edge because they are historically more likely to be pulled over by a police officer, to be suspended, to be attacked or by other students, what have you. All of these examples are proven in the data, and it shows that we should not be investing in school resource officers. However, we should be investing in many other things. And let me tell you, it is not metal detectors, but we need to be starting from a young age. Thank you.
My husband, for military, I support the Second Amendment. So the gun itself has no problem. The problem is how to use it wisely. That's why I suggest we give training for the teachers and to give the student safety training. Also, the teacher should report to the school which student has potential risk or which school has potential mental problem and which student's family has risk issues for them to use guns. That's why we evaluate and we talk to these high-risk families, give the families training and give the kids training, so we make sure that the guns used safely at school. And I heard some school in DC has the metal detectors, so we should evaluate whether we need to have that metal detector at Montgomery Public School or not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Chase?
Thank you. So I've done a lot of work around this. I convened and facilitated a meeting with our current CEOs, our community engagement officers, formerly SROs, currently community engagement officers, back in February. We had 26. I met with 23. 3 of them weren't feeling well, and their commanding officer. And we talked about the roles and responsibilities of the SRO versus the CEO. They were very unclear on the roles and responsibilities. So much so that they asked me to help them to advocate for the renewal and review regularly of the Memorandum of Understanding, the MOU, that they have, that MCPD has with MCPS. They feel that they've been thrown under the bus a lot. A lot of our community don't understand the roles and responsibilities either. For example, they don't understand that our SROs, CEOs don't make the decision as it relates to suspension, discipline, none of those things. That comes from the principal. Right. And so there's a lot that I think before we move forward with any implementation of anything new, that we have to work out first. Everything to the benefit of our children and not to the detriment of our children and our educators. I've also spoken to a lot of principals about SROs versus CEOs. Principals like SROs for a very different reason than our lay parents and caregivers. They like SROs because they feel that they get the protection from the larger community. That's not anecdotal. That's talking to people face to face who are most directly impacted by this. So I think that we have to come to a clear understanding before we can say yes or no. And the last thing I'll say is that we have to have measurable outcomes and accountability, whatever system we choose.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McCarthy?
Hi, I know this is a very, very heightened topic for a lot of people. I went to Wooten. I've been working with the Wooten community for over 2 years on their building issues. I will say that this is a layered issue. It's not just CEOs or SROs. First, the board does actually not have discretion over what we call them. This is the superintendent, law enforcement, and the county council because it's funded by the county council. So we need the superintendent and local law enforcement to come to the table, open the MOU, and do as it instructs when it was adopted 5 years ago, and review the data. We can talk about national data, but Montgomery County is not national data. We need to look at every high school community, what high schools need, and then we need to engage our principals. And we need our principals and our law enforcement officers to do training together. I think that is one of the biggest problems in inconsistency in implementation of working with law enforcement. And I would support that effort immediately, and I know it's beginning, and I think we need to be in school communities, talking with principals, talking with families to see what the unique needs are of a school with 1,500 people like Poolesville and a school with 3,000 people like Blair. I think we need to start there.
Thank you. All right, third question.
One more.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so used, sorry, I apologize.
I've been waiting patiently.
Go ahead.
You're not going to speak.
Yeah.
I apologize. Keep everybody on their
Well, this one's loud. So with the SROs, so I was there back in 2019, the formation of the Black and Brown Coalition for Educational Equity and Excellence, and we did a lot of work on this at that time. Back then, I was running for county council for my district. That I live in District 6, and we saw the statistics. We know the impact that this has on our Black and Brown students. For me, it's alarming knowing what we're even going through right now. Our black students make up about 20 to 22% of our student population right now, but make up over 50% of our suspensions right now in our schools currently. So bringing SROs into our schools could have a very long-lasting negative impact on our Black and Brown students, and that's one reason that I would be concerned. As far as solutions for this, we already have security in our schools. I think we need better training. I'm a person that believes really in promoting and training and lifting people up from the inside, from within. Continuing to offer mental health services. My daughter was involved in a skirmish at school, was eventually suspended. They have restorative justice techniques, and they had the mediator that came in, and by the end of the year, my daughter was friends with this person that she had fought with. Those are the kind of skills we need to promote and make sure that our kids feel safe so that they don't think of violence as an alternative or as a solution. So offering more mental health services and making sure that our kids feel safe in school. Thank you.
All right, now we'll go to the third question. All right, and Brad, I believe you're going to be up on this one. Sure. So Poolesville High School has a vibrant and well-respected set of magnet programs. NCPS is now proposing to put high schools in regions and institute magnets of various kinds in all high schools. Some parents worry this may undermine our magnet programs at Poolesville High School. Do you agree with these concerns? What are your views on the new regional school structure MCPS is proposing?
I think they're valid concerns, right? You're going from, I think it's 2 to 3 specialized high schools. I know Richard Montgomery has an IB and magnet program. I know Blair has one. I think BCC also has an IB program. So you have students going to these schools because you have teachers who are prepared and capable of teaching them. So the idea of expanding it, you get a little worried because do we have the teachers who are prepared to do all this and teach the kids in the proper manner? As far as the regionality goes, I do think it makes a lot of sense. I do think you want to try to have every child throughout this county. I mentioned earlier, it's such a big county, so many students, 150,000 students, 21 high schools. You want to provide the same opportunity to each student. So I do think we should have regionalities, but again, this is part of the problem with the board. They decide to do something, and it happens overnight. I think it would have been much smarter to phase in this process to see if we do have the teachers available to teach at these different places instead of having it happen overnight, where sometime in 2027 or 2028, all these kids are going to be going to these different schools expecting the same quality that they have here at Poolesville or Blair, and we don't quite know whether we're capable of providing that service. Thank you.
Ms. Song?
Yes, thank you. It's a big change, that's for sure, and change is really hard. I work in change management. It's something I work on every single day with very strong-headed people. So a lot like what Brett said, it feels like it was a change that was made and overnight. And I know a lot of people don't feel like there's a true plan to implement it. They're kind of like, oh, how are we going to do that? I felt that way when I looked at the website, looking at all the different changes. There's actually a major error on the website. So that didn't really instill a lot of confidence in me either. But a lot like Brett said, it shouldn't really matter where you live. If you are interested in a magnet program, you should be able to get access to that education. Montgomery County is very different from the high school that I went to. I had one high school choice, and that was it. So I think the ability to go to a magnet programs and go to IB are such an amazing opportunity, and everyone should be able to take a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Creed?
I know that Poolesville High School has a very good economic magnet program. It attracts a lot of very good students to study at Poolesville. So in this current global competition situation, we should not close those magnet programs. Instead, we should increase it, because that's the only way our kids can learn more and compete with the students from other countries. And if I was elected to the Board of Education, I would like to appeal that decision, and I would like to open more magnet program. Also, I would like to have more clubs for each school, after school programs, so that the student could learn like economics, finance, STEM, and writing, all that clubs. Currently, some private school has more, they call activities after school. So we should implement that to the public school. And we can ask the parents to teach the student. Some parents, they are very knowledgeable in this area, and we don't need to pay them. And they are also very happy to provide that help. So I think that's the way, keep our student academic excellence is my goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chase?
Thank you. So I understand the thought behind the regional models. I was a part of the regional model task force this summer with MCPS. We worked long and hard, and unfortunately didn't see a lot of our recommendations reflected back to us. One of those recommendations was that we rely on data. How do we know that there are students who are interested in some of these programs that they're talking about standing up in some of the clusters and in some of the new regional models? We know that the data tells us that, for instance, in Kennedy High School with the IB program, they don't have a lot of interest. In fact, they had to let go of some of the classes because of the lack of enrollment in some of those courses in the IB at Kennedy High School. So we've asked about data, right? Before making this decision, we must rely on data. And again, I understand why the new regional model, and it's about equity, right? So everybody doesn't have a whole school model that is flourishing and works well like Poolesville. Of course, we have, Richard Montgomery and those sorts of things. But if we look at some of the clusters, like Up County, like the Gaithersburg cluster, where I was a cluster coordinator, the opportunities just aren't there. My kids are zoned for Gaithersburg High School, but they attend Seneca Valley High School because they have the IB and Health Professions program. And my daughter's in both of those, right? So she didn't go to her zone school because that opportunity wasn't there. So I understand the regional model, but if not implemented with fidelity, then it's for naught.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. McCarthy?
Yeah, I want to say I agree conceptually with the regional model. And my only issue is everything is about implementation. And my background is actually in higher education research and strategic implementation of large-scale change in big organizations. We don't have the resources to build this proposal out. So how are we going to do that? That's my number one question. Where is the data? Are we launching products where we don't have market research? Where is the data? The board adopted in the resolution quarterly reporting on the launching of these programs. My first action would be to amend the resolution, open it up for discussion, and require monthly reporting of the rollout. I think in terms of access, we're on the right path to improving access. But is it equitable, truly equitable? I don't know. And right now, I have very, very strong concerns about the rollout, the pressure it puts on teachers, staff, and students, and mostly families. How do I make a decision for my 8th grader next fall when I'm supposed to choose a program where there's no staff and I've never seen the course before? And I can't talk to other students who have been through that process.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Lassie.
Thank you. One thing I will tell you, just going around the county, nothing seems to be really standardized with MCPS. You go to one school, maintenance is one way. You go to another school, just as old, and maintenance is another way. And that's what concerns me about this, is being able to standardize, making sure that everybody has access to the same quality education. I mean, right now, talking to teachers, I don't think we're ready right now to roll something like this out. In theory, it's great, and I think even, Poolesville, I think 60% of the students at Poolesville are from out of the area, so obviously it would be great for them to be able to go somewhere closer to where they live. So to me, there's a lot of potential there, but I'm really concerned about standardizing, making sure that every region has the same quality level of education. Another thing for me, there's still systemic issues. My kids are in, I have one at elementary school, one is at Kennedy in the IB program, the other one was in the IB program and now is in the dual enrollment program. One thing I know as a parent, I had to be very, very involved in order to get my kids into those programs. And if I just miss one deadline, that was it. My kid was not in that program. We cannot leave it up to just the parents. And I talk about, segregation by income. Your income level should not determine the level of education that your child receives. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Diaz.
So my daughter participated in the Global Humanities program over here at Poolesville, and so, we were very happy that she was there, and she did excel there. It was a drive for us. We live in Gaithersburg, and so that trek to school every morning was difficult. So I do believe in the regional model in concept. However, there are significant problems with delivering that sort of model across MCPS. One of the major ones is the fact that we don't have the professional development in our teachers in order to deliver that. What does that mean? In order to have a program like that, every single teacher that participates in that sort of program needs to be masters of their content. They need to be participating in the writing of the curriculum, be diligent in the study of it, just be fluent in it, proficient in the curriculum and in the content of it. You need sincerely. And so we don't have enough of that. In order to deliver that kind of product to all of our students across MCPS, that would require major professional development on the part of MCPS so that our students receive the quality education that they deserve. We are not alone. Teachers are not alone in identifying that problem. There was something called the Red Flags Coalition where they noted and they made very clear to MCPS that we don't have the resources in terms of professional development to deliver that kind of content to our children. So in time, we can if we invest in our teachers and if we invest in the curriculum itself, but that is going to take time.
All right, thank you. All right, our fourth question, we'll start with you, Ms. Sung.
Yes.
And that is, Poolesville High School was recently and completely modernized and rebuilt, but the school system refused to redo and modernize the school's playing fields during construction. Now a proposal is on the table to build turf fields at a number of high school stadium fields, including Poolesville. Poolesville's fields is so old and can't easily be maintained, and cannot, let me repeat, cannot so easily be maintained, so its students often have to travel elsewhere, such as our local parks, to practice, and a turf field would be welcomed for many. What are your views on turf fields, and specifically, what about a turf field for Poolesville High School?
Absolutely. First, students shouldn't have to travel to play their varsity and JV sports. They should be able to walk out the door and be able to do it. Students don't have a lot of time, and their time is precious. They have studies to get to as well. I know we don't want them traveling very far to go have to do their athletics, because they also need to be focusing on their studies or having jobs after school as well as their studies. People probably won't like this. I do not like turf fields. They get incredibly hot in the summer. And I don't know if everyone has lived here for a long time, but it gets very hot here in the summer. Like turf fields get up to 180 degrees. It's already hot. We don't need turf fields soaking in all of that additional heat. So while the fields here may be very difficult to maintain, maybe that's something we can look into, bulldozing, putting new dirt in. I don't know how these things work. I'm not a landscape expert, but there are people who are, and I'm sure we have some on staff in the county. But turf fields, I played soccer growing up. They're really fun to play on unless it's hot out, and then it's not great. Also, you can get MRSA and literally lose a leg if you get an infection. So, not a fan.
All right,
Thank you.
Street.
Before my children study at Potomac Elementary School, and then they decide to build a new school. So they send my kids to another school in Bethesda for 2 years. And then we use the school bus. I do not think it's a big problem for the traveling, and every parent are happy. So I do think if Poolesville School needs to repair, we do need to repair it. So for a short period of time, the kids can study in the other school, and then after the school finished repair, then the student can come back. Use the school bus. I think that is a good way in the long run, because if the school need to repair, we need to have it repaired. Otherwise, it's dangerous.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Chase.
So I don't know a whole lot about turf versus grass. What I do know, I learned from going to the up-county board meetings and also listening to Adnan, who is over facilities for MCPS, talk about the pros and cons. And I've asked a few questions. I'm still a little confused about it, I'll be honest with you. Based on some of the information that I learned, I'm not in love with turf fields for some of the reasons that were mentioned because of the heat. Supposedly, some of the vapors and the smells that can come from it could really affect children who already have allergies and things of that nature, as well as parents, as well as spectators on the field. However, I understand the maintenance issue, right? You have a brand new school. And the students have to leave their brand new school. Your gym is awesome, by the way, but our team still beat you all in basketball. But that was only once, so don't ask me to elaborate. So I think that doesn't make any sense to me. I understand that. However, I just have to be really clear and just say that from my point of view, I don't think turf is the way, but also, as a board member, we would have to come to consensus, right? And holding MCPS accountable for whatever decision is made, so we wouldn't necessarily make that decision. We would absolutely vote together. My vote would be not to not have turf fields based on the information that I have right now. Should something change, then, we would talk about that. I also know that maintaining grass fields is hard. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right, Ms. McCarthy.
Hi, so I worked on the school construction impact team with Mr. Crothers and the community for 2.5 years at Poolesville. I would say no, we got to go ahead with those fields. This community went through a lot of pain and a lot of sacrifice for a very long time. That said, I fully understand the concerns with turf. I'm actually not a fan of turf, but it's a matter of planning and cost, right? We don't want to interrupt the plans and cause issues of equity and access, especially in the far western part of the county, but we need a plan. This is an expensive endeavor. There are no doubt health issues. So where are we looking to partner? Are we looking with MSI and other private organizations? Are we looking with parks? How do we come up with perhaps a pilot model that's shared between schools and the community? There are a lot of concerns about cost and use and access, and I think we need a plan. We don't have one. We're just saying turf is bad, turf is good, and we're not really coming up and building that consensus. And as a board member, I'd look to do that. I have the experience after serving on the capital improvement program chair. I worked on the Whitman PTA when we adopted turf there. It's failed 3 times in 10 years. That's an expensive endeavor. So I think we need to really look at the money and look at what the plan is.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lazo?
So a lot of my work, I've done a lot of work. You'll learn that I've been on I wear a lot of different hats. But I've definitely worked with a lot of environmental groups, Western Montgomery Green, Bethesda Green, Sierra Club, and so forth. Done a lot of the research. There are alternative options. I mean, you would have to invest, though. You would have to make it a priority and say, we're going to have a different type of seed. You have to reseed a field and make sure that you get something that's a little bit more robust, that's going to require less maintenance. But turf fields, from injuries to the heat to the microplastics that we're putting into our environment, it's just not, it's not an environmentally friendly option. So I think if we make it a priority, we can have fields that we can maintain and buy equipment that we need to maintain. And it is a priority. Our kids need to have something to do, not just to do. Sometimes it's a pathway to college, So I think we have to just decide what's our priority. Is it the environment? Or, our kids, first of all, our kids are our priority, right? And that's why for me, if they're prone to injury on AstroTurf, on artificial turf, that's not putting our kids as a priority. And I know that it saves a buck because there's less maintenance. But then when you have to throw that away, there's no way to get rid of turf right now. We're just creating a mess for our environment. So I would be against it, but I'm listening. I'm here to listen.
Thank you, Ms. Diaz.
So one of the major pillars of my campaign is encouraging and respecting parental involvement, or just the community overall. And what we've seen is that there's been major push by many organizations within Montgomery County to get rid of these artificial turf fields and bring back our grass fields. I used to play sports when I was in high school. I'm a 3-sport athlete, or I was at least. And, I want our children to be able to have that experience of being in a field that's natural, that's safe, that they can just run and play in, right, without any sort of concern for their health except maybe like getting tackled. We also know that unfortunately, the Board of Education has a big problem with the way that they allocate and take care of our money. There's a tremendous amount of waste within MCPS, and a lot of that is on the fault of the Board of Education. There's something called the consent agenda that gets approved in the millions with no bid contracts. That needs to be looked at. And the reason why I bring that up is because if we want to prioritize bringing grass back to our children, to our children's fields, then we need to look line item by line item at that budget. Right now, the Board of Education, they went from 24 meetings a year to 12 meetings a year. Tell me about the oversight that's happening right now. It just does not exist. So as a board member, I would make sure that we end that consent agenda so that we are providing absolute oversight of our budget, and then I would make sure that we go back to our 24 meetings so that we have proper oversight and prioritize what should be prioritized.
Thank you.
So I'm a retired Little League baseball coach. I spent the better part of a decade coaching kids around the county. I've been to Halmas Park here. If we were going to redo a field, the first priority is making sure there are the proper number of restrooms available to all the folks in the stands. But as far as turf versus artificial turf versus regular turf, I think this is an opportunity for those on the school board to listen, right? We are public servants. We are here to serve the public. We are here to listen to what is best for the folks in Poolesville. I've heard a lot of different opinions. As someone who's coached, I've seen kids play on turf. I've seen kids play on grass. I think there are pros and cons to each. I think my vote on this would be, what do the parents at Poolesville High School want? That's it.
Okay, thank you. All right. We're going to go to our fifth question, and we'll start with Ms. Creed this time. All right, and this question is really about transparency and accountability. And so recently it was brought to my attention that in the Poolesville community and around the county, there's a need for consistent transparency and accountability of sharing information, particularly data being used to make decisions. And during public Board of Education meetings, board members often ask for specific data or other clarifying information from MCPS. Now, when you go on the website, there's a place where you can see information, a place for each month. And so from March 2025 to December 2025, during this time frame, when studies for key initiatives are underway, there are no memorandum postings on the MCPS Board of Education website page at all. While posting of memorandums from MCPS on the board's website has resumed in January of this year, it's notable that public hearings have been excluded. In fact, public hearing memorandums have been excluded since the beginning of the 2024-2025 school year. And so you could go back and look on the website and you could see that gap. So the question, it is not so much about that particular gap, but the question is, what steps would you, if you were elected, what steps would you take to address this issue and ensure transparency and accountability? And we will start with Ms. Creed.
Firstly, I would like to have a meeting with the county council members. I will meet each of them, listen to their opinions. Then I would like to meet with the county executive, ask for his opinion. And then after that, I would like to have a meeting with the state governor and the lieutenant state governor, listen to their opinions how to resolve this problem. Then I will combine all their opinions, then I will summarize a solution and ask the Board of Education to post the data on time, because it's unacceptable for that big discrepancy and untransparency, right? We need to have a transparent data to make decisions, especially to monitor the use of the budget. Currently, MCPS, the budget is 3.7 billion. That's half of the whole revenue of Montgomery County. That's all our tax money. We have the right to ask them to provide what we want to see. There is no reason to hide it. And I do not know whether it's illegal or not. I have to ask a lawyer why they can do that. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Chase?
I want to make sure that I'm understanding the question, and this is about transparency and the memos not being included, board docs, things like that, for the Board of Education, correct?
Correct. I can repeat the question.
Thank you.
And so, it is a question around transparency, and the
Yes.
example that was used, I shared with you briefly, recently was brought to my attention in the Poolesville community and around the county. There is a need for consistent transparency and accountability of sharing information, particularly data being used to make decisions. Example that was brought to me was during public Board of Education meetings, board members often ask for specific data or other clarifying information from MCPS. All right, so from March 2025 through December 2025, during this time frame when studies of key initiatives are underway, there are no memorandum postings on the MCPS Board of Education website page at all. While posting of memorandums from MCPS on the board's website has resumed in January of 2026, it is notable that the public hearings have been excluded. In fact, public hearing memorandums have been excluded since the beginning of the 2024-2025 school year. And so the question is, what steps will you take to address this issue and ensure transparency and accountability?
Thank you for restating the question. I appreciate it. Yeah, this has been an ongoing issue. And it's something that I've advocated for actually in my work with the Black and Brown Coalition. I've been with the coalition since its inception in 2019. We started during the pandemic. And it has been an issue. Going to your point of board members asking for information from MCPS and not getting it, they've stated that publicly on the dais. Because how can you, as a board member, make a decision if you don't have the relevant information and you're not giving it until and asked to participate in a vote if you haven't been given the information prior? So what are you really voting on? And so we've had abstentions, in fact, from at least 2 members consistently. So what I would do as a board member is work with my colleagues on the board to compel MCPS to deliver this information. I have to also say that it is a policy within the accountability and implementation for the Maryland Blueprint that community engagement is one of the pillars, right? And so they are absolutely going against the Maryland Blueprint and the policies uplifted there and in that pillar for community engagement. And so, again, as a board member, I would compel MCPS, because we are the accountability arm and delivering and implementing policy, that this practice needs to stop, right? And so how can we ask our community to advocate to be a part and to understand what's happening, what's impacting them and their children if they don't have the information? And if I don't have it as a Board of Education member, that's a problem.
Thank you. All right, Ms. McCarthy?
Yeah, board transparency, MCPS transparency, sometimes I say it's their brand, the lack of transparency. Their website is clumsy on a good day. We could start with the floor there, how parents access information, not great. But when it comes to the board needs independent staff. The board gets its information and is briefed on information from MCPS staff. The board needs its own data analyst, it needs its own policy analyst. And the board has the power to hire their own staff. That would be something I would be 100% supportive of, and I would work with my colleagues to try and make that happen to the best of our ability. Independent staff removes the calls coming from within the house. That's what I like to call it. When you're briefed by people who have a vested interest in preserving what they're doing and showing you the best side of it, you can't always trust what that information looks like. So that would be my way for the board as a board member to get at that transparency within the authority that I would have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lenzo?
It surprises me. I've served on a lot of boards, and over the last 20-something years, this is a question of governance, making sure that your board knows what authority they have. I sit on the board of Montgomery College. I'm also the chair of the Workforce Development Board. And honestly, I don't make decisions unless I'm informed. And I've been at board meetings. I've been at Montgomery College, and something comes up, and something new comes up, and we're getting ready to vote. And but we have our board knows if we don't have all the information there, we're not going to make a decision. And we will, hold it back and bring it back and demand that we get the reports or the information that we need. So when it comes to transparency, that's something that the board has to advocate for. And right now we're going into something where we're going to have a fairly new board. We have three new members coming in, and most of the members that are there are also on their first term. So it's an opportunity for us to change, the way things have been done in the past. And for me, I've been chair of the Workforce Development Board. We started off with the board from the bottom up. We're one of the top boards in the entire country right now, and that comes from developing that trust and transparency and making sure that you're supporting everybody that's working under you. So I hope to bring that governance experience with me.
Thank you, Ms. Diaz.
I think it's a pretty simple task, and I'm going to tell you why. Because if we go in as board members, we can immediately start taking action. What would that action look like? If we're not posting memoranda, then we can do it ourselves. We can direct our staff to do it themselves. We can create a to-do list ourselves to give to MCPS and to follow that when it comes to transparency and accountability. If they're not doing it, it's because they're not prioritizing it. So just go in and do it. If I need to go online to post it myself, then I'll do it myself. I figured out all sorts of programs. I've built my own website. It's definitely something that we could do individually, that we can direct our staff to do. I agree with Ms. McCarthy that we should have our own dedicated staff. We should not be depending on MCPS. We shouldn't have to compel the superintendent to do this. This is something that we should be able to do ourselves as a board. So I would take full responsibility for that, and I have no problem saying that. We can also just reach out to the PTAs when it comes to communication, getting that communication out. We can get that communication out to the principals so that they can spread it to the wider community. So there's really no excuse when it comes to not publishing memoranda and agenda items. It's simple, it's easy, you do it yourself.
All right. Let's see here.
I think there's two halves to this. The first half is the MCPS side. Central office has quite a few employees. I think that we would call them the government bureaucracy at MCPS. There should be at least a couple of those who are solely dedicated to getting us the statistics that we need when we need them. The board has oversight of the budget. If MCPS can't guarantee us people who are going to provide us the data when we need it, then we're going to remove those positions until we get the data and the people that we need. The second half of that is the board itself is 5 districts, 2 at-large members, and 1 student member. So 8 people who are overseeing a $3.78 billion budget that we work at part-time with no staff. That has to change, period. We need dedicated staff. Right now, they are debating in Annapolis whether they should pay it at full-time. I'm happy to forego a salary as long as we actually pay staff so that we can get that out there, get that information out there. I'm happy to still be a part-time employee as long as we get the staff we need to be independent. So I think if we do both those half things, we'll get the information we need and be able to get it to the parents.
Thank you. Ms. Sung?
Excellent. This is what I do. This is my job. I review processes. I take in data. I establish governance, and all of those things are what lead to transparency as well as accountability. I love your idea, Brenda, about just putting it on the website. There's probably so many rules, and some websites are terrible to manage.
Right.
Yeah.
But the fact is that if it's not happening, then you do it anyways.
So I just wanted to say, the reason that it didn't happen, who knows? There was probably a gap in the process. It probably wasn't written down. Someone was probably on vacation and then didn't return to the job. So review the process. Absolutely. There are no excuses. There should be backup for everything. So we need to understand the process and review how it happened and change it so that that doesn't happen again. We need to understand where the gaps are and where the pain points are and improve it from there. As far as data beforehand, we should all be making decisions not moments before the meeting, but with plenty of data so that we can then go and talk to everyone that we represent or would be representing and find out how they feel about things, and then using that data as well as their opinions and feelings and seeing how we should be making decisions from there. Thank you.
I believe we started with Ms. Creed on the last one, so this time we're going to start with Ms. Chase. Now this question, this is going to be either a yes or a no. It's as simple, it's very straightforward. It's taking a position. It's a yes or a no.
Do we get 90 seconds to explain why?
You got
Sit out after
If you
that.
say yes or no, we know the answer.
We know your answer. All right, so a number of county, and this should not be new information, all right, but a number of county council members are arguing that given the fact that MCPS is about half of all of the spending in the county, the school system must be more accountable for its spending and transparent, including providing much detail on spending categories and plans to the county council. So it's either a yes or a no. Do you agree that there has to be more transparency in the spending categories with the county council or not?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay? Wait, we go Ms. McCarthy?
What do the kids say? Full stop, yes.
Yes to the heck yes.
Yes?
100, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes.
All right, Ms. Sung?
Yes, no doubt.
Ms. Creed?
Yes, I think this is a big cake. Everyone want to have a bite of it.
Okay, there we go. Everyone got yes, and we did it in less than 90 seconds. Great job. All right, next question, and then we're going to go back to our starting point. I believe that's, no, we're not. We're going to go to Ms. McCarthy. Ms. McCarthy, you're going to take this one. Given the growing diverse needs of Montgomery County students, how will you support our special populations? Please address each of the following specifically: our special education, our low social economics, and our emerging multilingual learners.
So three different groups, but lots of overlap in those groups. Special education, 100% support the allocation of resources for special education resource teachers at the elementary school level. In terms of our EML and, kids at Title I schools, community schools, high farm schools, I look at it from a K through 3 resources? Where are we supporting those kids? Reducing class sizes as much as we can. And I would like to see one professional paraeducator in every kindergarten class in the system. I think that is the best place to start in terms of where our resources would get the most bang for the buck, and we would see improvements in 3 to 4 years in students. And then can you repeat the last part of the question? Sorry.
Sure. And so there's the three groups. How are you going to support special education, our our low socioeconomics, and our emerging multilingual learners, our EML populations?
Right. And then recognizing the needs for kids in secondary education is much different. And I think high impact tutoring is a program that's shown tremendous results. And we're going to need it, especially with Blueprint and the transitions to the regional models.
Thank you. All right, next, Mr. Lazo.
Sure. So as far as special education, I know a lot of the funding is being cut, honestly, right now, in our budget. I think one of the things that boggled me when I started looking into this was they're called RITCs, resource, teachers that recognize disabilities at they should be at a young age. And I found out that most of them are when the kids are older. You really need to start looking into this when they're in elementary school. So for our kids with disabilities and special education, we need to focus more on that. Emerging multilingual, reducing class sizes. I think a lot of times these kids get lost because we have very, very large class sizes, because unfortunately there's a lot of folks a lot of students that need these resources. Low socioeconomic. So I think the concept of community schools, I think we need to expand. I think right now, when kids don't, only have one meal, are coming to school hungry, have, issues at home, have issues with housing, it's something that they can't learn. So when you offer a wraparound service, even helping people, parents with rent sometimes, we need to make sure that our kids are obviously getting their education in school, but don't have the distractions that the world can sometimes throw at them, whether it be their friends being picked up by ICE, their parents being picked up, family members. It's just making sure that they have the support structure.
Yes?
All right, so for special ed, what I would make sure that we would have is extra staff. Our paras, when I was in the classroom, whenever I had a para with me for my special ed classes or for my ESOL classes, it was incredibly helpful to have a para on hand. So I would definitely recommend or encourage that we have incentives for paras to serve specifically for special ed. Then for our, and this would apply for everyone, I would want just to remove the Chromebooks at the elementary school level. They are a major distraction, and they remove time from direct instruction in phonics and in reading and in writing and in math. And so the centers are just not working, and we need that explicit instruction. This is something that the southern states, something known as the Southern Surge, that was reported on by this woman. Her name is Karen Vates. She's an educational policy researcher, and she spent a lot of time looking at the success of Mississippi and Tennessee and Louisiana, and has found that when you remove the Chromebooks, when you introduce the whole books, when you introduce explicit phonics instruction, this helps all of our populations. And then just in general, I would make sure that we have grade appropriate assignments for all of our students. I want to honor the intelligence of our students. They are more than capable of meeting the challenge. And when they receive those assignments with the support from their teachers and from their parents, then they are able to meet those challenges. I would also make sure that we retain our accelerated math and our accelerated English language ELA programs that were just recently cut. Our gifted students, no matter who they are, deserve those programs.
I'm going to go back to something I said earlier, which is talking about flexibility. I met with a teacher who does EML, and she was specifically teaching students who came up with their parents from Central America all the way here to Montgomery County. And when I was asking her questions, she said the toughest part wasn't teaching them a new language. The toughest part was getting them used to a classroom, because they had never sat down in a classroom before. So before she could even teach them about language, she had to teach them what it was like to get used to a classroom setting. to give that school and that teacher the same amount of money or the same amount of funding as Cabin John, where my kids go, where I'd say 98 to 99% of the people are fluent in English, seems silly. Again, I think a one-size-fits-all policy is problematic. As far as what everybody said so far, everything sounds great. I would love to provide more services. What we have seen over the past 6 months is that MCPS has asked for money and the county council has said no. They are not going to raise taxes. The county executive offered a 6% tax increase on property taxes. The county council said no. So we are going to have to put together a budget that shows our priorities and what our red lines are. And while we'd love to do everything for everybody, I think what we are going to find is that we are going to have to make some tough decisions over the next 6 months. Thank you.
Ms. Sung?
Yes. Many of these are near and dear to my heart. Special education, my baby sister is a special educator in Pennsylvania. She is also now moved to the administrative side of things, and every state is different with different rules and regulations, but holy cannoli. And I know that she went through a lot in her classroom herself. So that being said, special education funds should never be cut. Those students need the most amount of assistance. They need all of the help that they can get. Those teachers are saints walking on this planet and should be awarded for everything that they do. They need all the support and then some more. So that be money, resources, more people, what have you, it needs to happen. As far as wraparound services go for our low social economic students, the community I know wants to help. There are many nonprofits in the community that want to be assisting these students and helping them. Sometimes we don't know that there's an issue, but you know who usually does is the teacher. So we need to find out a way to have teachers inform the administration that they know that there's students that need help without embarrassing them. Some students don't want that help and their parents don't want that help, but you know what? They're going to learn a heck of a lot better if their stomachs are full and they are having a consistent life with knowing where they're sleeping that night, knowing how they're going to get to school the next day, and that they're going to have food for breakfast and lunch. And EML is also very important. I know that the number of students enrolled in those programs are currently going down thanks to some of our federal issues that are going on, and that's not something our students should have to deal with. Thank you.
My son was in the special education program before, and the school bring in the speech therapy, and also in the summer there was some special program for him for years. So I really appreciate it. So I would like to support the special education program for sure. Also for the low-income families, the school will provide lunch, and then I will work with the food banks in the neighborhood. The food banks have a lot of food, and they can bring to school for those kids can bring the food back home, make sure they have enough. And also for the multi-language students, I think we can seek the help from the community. A lot of volunteers will be very happy to teach them English after school. They can come to school and give them education. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. So this is a multi-layered question. It's so how would I support special education, low socioeconomic students, and emerging multilingual learners as a board member? I would really work with my board members on that community engagement piece and really compelling our school system to do a better job at that and to be better stewards with the monies that we have right now, because it doesn't seem like we're going to get that influx that we would like to get, right? So that's $190 million additionally that MCPS is asking for the next school year, right? To bring that budget up to $3.78 billion from $3.6 billion right now. So we currently have 77 community schools. We are slated to go up next school year to 88 community schools. So that'll be 10 additional community schools, where again, there are those services for those low-income families. So that means servicing those families and those students in ways that they need, right? Because none of these things are nice to have. All of them are needs. So the community school liaisons are the folks who work with those families in those community schools. There's one per school. MCPS is going to cut those family engagement specialists. There are 16 of them, right? They do something different from the community school liaison. So now that they're cutting those 16 positions, that's big, folks, because only 16 wasn't enough, right? And so now those community school liaisons are going to be charged with that job for those folks. So that encompasses all of them. 90 seconds is not enough.
I did give you one extra second.
You did. Thank you. Thank you.
We should go back to the yes/no question.
Oh, yes.
Everybody
Well,
gets an
I'm
extra
sitting here
second.
thinking about, do I give you, because we have a couple, I know we have many more questions than time we have, and I'm debating, do I give you 1 more minute for this question so I can get one more in, or do I just keep it at a minute and a half? So 90 seconds, we're gonna go, we'll stick to what we said. So we're on our second to last question, just to give you a foreshadow where we're getting ready to go. This is gonna be the last question, and the second to last question. The last question, you'll get an opportunity to share why a person should vote for you. But here's the second to last question before we get to our wrap up. So recently, MCPS proposed to eliminate compacted math classes in elementary school, as well as Model 1 ELA classes in grades 4 and 5. Instead, MCPS proposes delivering enrichment and acceleration through cluster grouping within the heterogeneous classrooms. While the proposal includes ongoing training inside the classroom, teachers often need to focus most of their time on students who are not meeting grade level expectations. What will you do to ensure academic learning gaps do not widen under the challenges of differentiation through cluster grouping within the heterogeneous classrooms? Okay, and we will start with Mr. Lazo.
Sure.
Thought you all knew the rhythm already. But All right. Yeah, I don't want that. Mr. Lazo, you're up.
Sure. I think one of the main things that we're trying to do, I think that would help everybody, and I already mentioned this, was trying to reduce our class sizes. Right now, we're not in a good place. So for me, that's one of those things where I think we really need to focus on. With this model, one of the things that really concerns me is that you have kids at completely different learning levels. And if you have these teachers that all of a sudden are trying to implement, this new learning system, I think you're going to get into a situation where the kids that are way more advanced are going to face a disservice. When you're trying to get these kids that are at a lower level up to the same level. So for me, I'm a little concerned about it. I think that, we have to take a much stronger look. And that's with a lot of things that I think there's a lot of decisions, even with, like when we talked about the regional programs. I think we're rushing to a lot of things. So for me, I would just make sure that we look into this more and honestly give it a little bit more time.
I would absolutely challenge this decision and do everything in my power to stop it entirely as a product of a gifted and talented program up in New York City in the Bronx. I benefited greatly from that. My class was my refuge. I was able to excel there and just feel at home in these accelerated programs that were offered. And for someone in the neighborhood that I grew up in, these were opportunities that not many of us had. And why would we try to take these opportunities away from our children here in MCPS? So, I would absolutely do everything in my power to stop that. As a teacher, as a classroom teacher, it is very difficult to deliver differentiated instruction on a regular basis and meet everyone's needs. The fact of the matter is that students know that they are not getting quality education when you have everyone in that classroom. I remember when my middle daughter was assigned to an honors English class in middle school. Mom, I just got into honors English. And then she saw, and she was like, no, this is not honors. Everybody's in there. She was extremely disappointed because obviously her intelligence was not being honored, nor was anyone else being challenged as they should be. We have to respect our students. And that means that we respect the programs, the gifted and talented programs that exist, and I would do everything in my power to stop it from being enforced.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is get a thesaurus to try to figure out all the words in that question. I think we are too often doing a couple of things that aren't helpful. First, this change that just happened where they got rid of the compacted math and added new math. Most parents had no idea this was happening.
It's crazy.
MTPS, the board, did not do a good job of explaining the changes. As someone who had 3 kids who go through the system, there's a lot of times we're asked to figure out, when my first kid went to high school, which classes they were supposed to take. We don't know that because it's not communicated to us. The second thing is, I think we're worried too much about the lowest floor instead of the highest ceiling. We have to push our kids and offer them the opportunity to reach their full potential. That doesn't mean leaving folks behind, but it does mean offering those enrichment classes, having those kids have the ability to take the harder classes. Thank you.
Sung?
Thank you. So I am not very educated in this space. I will say that. I've been learning a lot since it came out because I was very interested. So I just wanted to say that up front. I've been reading a lot about it since the decision came out. I do want to say that Gifted and Talented has benefited many students, which is great, and I love that people up here have had that experience. It has also created a lot of very anxious adults who are overachievers, yet very terrible about communicating their needs. So there are back and forths on the benefits. However, I mentioned my sister used to be a special educator. Her husband is also a high school history teacher. And the worst thing that they ever have to do is classroom management. And this is making classroom management so much harder. I could not imagine trying to teach 3 different levels of student the same information and meeting all of their needs, especially making sure that you're also meeting all of the different types of learning styles that are already out there. Being a teacher is hard. Why are we making it harder for them? Our students want to succeed. We should want our students and teachers to succeed. This should not be happening. A lot like they said, I would roll it back. I would say, why was this decision made? Show me the data. Why did we make this decision? Was it a budget issue? Because we shouldn't be making major classroom management decisions based upon money. There are other ways around this problem. Thank you.
I suggest we should keep the MAP program. When my kids was in the MCPS, they use the MAP test, and we like it because. So I think the students should be divided into 3 groups. One, if their MAP score is high, we should give them a expanded STEM program. Those are fast learners. We should give them enrichment classes. And the second group of students is the students need help. They need to improve their grades, and that model is fit this group of students. So this model has no problem at all, but just we can use it, but for slow learners, we need to keep this model. And the third group of students are the students they do not want to go to college. So we need to give this group of students some career trainings and provide internships and give them career opportunities, open their doors. Thank you.
So there's a lot going on here. There's a lot to pay attention to. And, we have new regional models, boundary studies. Elementary schools are about to go through that and are going through that. It hasn't been widely publicized that some boundaries for elementary schools have already changed. In my own cluster, for instance, I'm in the Gaithersburg cluster, and so our elementary school, Laytonsville Elementary, has been re-articulated and their boundary has changed, but a lot of people don't know that. That hasn't been shared, talking about transparency. So we have the regional model, the boundary studies, the new math curriculum, and then the reading policy. If you're not reading by end of 3rd grade, then you could be held back, right? Lots of things going on, what to pay attention to. So that leaves us in a state of paying attention to only what affects you. right? And that's not typically who we are as a county necessarily, but that's kind of where you become, because you know, you have analysis paralysis. What do I pay attention to? So for this specifically, for compacted math, Johns Hopkins did a study a while ago, and we talked about this in one of our advocacy priorities for the Black and Brown Coalition and NAACP Parent Council for Montgomery County was access to rigor for all students, Black and Brown especially, right? Because the access just wasn't there. And so one of the studies that we paid attention to was around compacted math, and the data did not support that compacted math worked the way it was supposed to. It skipped a lot. So that's my answer.
Okay. And so, Ms. McCarthy, won't forget you.
Sure, this is the topic of the 72-hour news cycle in MCPS right now. I've actually went back and watched the portion twice. I still don't think some of the data that was presented was accurate with regard to compacted math and outcomes. That said, this is always the biggest question in public education generally. And so I have actually talked to friends and family members who are teachers and have asked them, because I know how I feel as a parent having one child who didn't have access to it and one child who did, and they will tell you the same thing. It's the screening process and identifying for kids for acceleration. Can't happen in a heterogeneous class. It can happen in a class that's well-designed, teachers are trained, and implemented with fidelity. And I think we start the conversation there, because I think what our families need and our teachers need right now is some stability, with Blueprint coming down, with big changes in boundaries, to sort of turn this on its head, implement a new curriculum in math, rigorous requirements. Let's keep some structure in place, and let's improve our process that we have in place. My youngest daughter was part of Common Core, no compacted math. 6 months later, we were back in compacted math without pullout. It was chaos. It was also at the peak of enrollment, and it was terrible. Lots of change requires some stability for our teachers and our students.
Can we just say what compacted math is? I saw some people looking at it, not knowing. It doesn't have to be me. Do you want to just explain?
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. For the sake of time, because I want to honor our start time and end time, and just as Ms. McCarthy said, I would encourage you, compacted math, I don't want to do it a disservice, so I would encourage you just to go back in and look. You can go on the MCPS website. You can go look at MSDE, Maryland State Department of Education. As it was said earlier, it is the hot topic right now through a lot of the different circles. That's why the question is brought up. And so if you don't know what compact math is, see me after, and I'm happy to explain it to you. I'll help you get the answer. All right, because we're going to start on time and end on time. And with that being said, our last question, you have 1 minute to answer this question. And the question is, why are you, we'll start with you, Ms. Diaz, why are you the best candidate for Board of Education, as a new Board of Education member? You have 1 minute.
I am the best candidate because I am solely dedicated to rebuilding the foundation of academic excellence. This is my major priority. As a teacher for over 20 years now, who has served as an administrator, as a classroom teacher, as a coach, from pre-K all the way to high school, ESOL, AP, social studies, and Spanish. I have created curriculum. I know the inside of the school. I know what it means to lead as an educator. And I was even an MCEA building rep. So I have the keen insight into how education works within MCPS. I have also based all of my policy proposals on evidence-based best practices. If you visit my website, diazforboe.com, you will find the 5 pillars of success and the success toolkit, all with hyper-embedded links that you can go research for yourself where my policy proposals came from. I'm dedicated to high academic and behavioral expectations, prioritizing school safety, boosting teacher morale, proper oversight of our budget, and encouraging and respecting parental involvement. That is why I am the best candidate. Thank you.
1 minute, huh?
Yeah, 1 minute.
All right. Board of Education is at the confluence of politics, education, and community. I have all three. Politics, I have been a political consultant for the last 30 years. I've helped elect people all across the country, from Chuck Schumer, Ben Cardin, I'm heavily involved in politics, including in the county council. So when I go up there to talk to them about education policy, I won't need a name tag. Education, I have been a college professor for the past 16 years. I teach at 2 different universities. I teach undergraduate and graduates, including returning military. And as far as community, I've been involved heavily in the community. I've been a Little League baseball coach. I've been a PTA board member. I help choose and vet nominees for the Board of Trustees at Montgomery College. So we have been involved in all different parts of the community. So I think once you look at all those different things, all those different aspects, that's why I believe I'd make the best member. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Sung?
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for having us here. I'm Cassandra Cassie Sung, running for District 3. And I just wanted to say, again, thank you so much for having us. I am a mom. I have a 5-year-old and a 3.5-year-old. I'm running because I want my kids to be attending the school district that my husband attended. He went to Churchill a bajillion years ago. And Churchill and our school district is not the same as it used to be. And I think it can be as amazing as it once was. We have a long way to go, but I know that we can all do it because I'm passionate, I care, I love data. I really just want to be there for my kids in all the ways possible and everyone else's kids because everyone deserves a fair shot. Right now, there's not enough transparency. We talked about that a lot tonight. I work in data, live in data. I do implementation of systems. So many of the problems that we are facing as a district are things that I live and breathe every day. So my daughter is joining the school soon, and I am running to be there for her and all of her buddies. Thank you.
Reed?
Our children are competing in a global economy. As a Tiger mom, so I would like to prepare them with strong academics and advanced STEM education. That's my whole goal to run this election. I would like our kids to be more competitive. They should be very good at reading and writing, good at math, and good at STEM. That's so our country can be very advanced economically, in technology, in science, and so make sure that we keep maintain the strongest, the best country in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm a mom of 4, as I mentioned earlier. I'm a mom of 4. I'm a wife of 1. Oldest is 35, youngest is 14. Our oldest is a PhD neuroscientist. Our second has his own business. He also works for the county. And then we have a high school junior and a high school freshman. Our kids are going to be fine. My kids are going to be fine. I come to this work with over 25 years of educational equity advocacy because a lot of other kids are not fine. And it's not because one of the things that binds us as parents and caregivers is that we want more for our children than we had for ourselves. And that's why I'm ready to be on the dais as the next Board of Education member at large, because of my lived experience and because of my work, because I have a proven track record. And I know what our kids need, but not through my own lens, through the lens of all the parents, educators, teachers, school leaders that I've worked with and that I'll continue to work with. I know how to build consensus. That's necessary. We can make all the promises we want to all of you, but we can't do it alone. We have to do it with our colleagues. WileaChase.com.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yeah, I'm actually full disclosure, sitting in a booth at an airport because I'm leaving the graduation of my youngest daughter, who's an MCPS grad. My husband's an MCPS grad. I went to Wooten, where my father was a teacher and a coach. MCPS is deeply personal for me. This is where I call home. Professionally, I've worked in education policy. I have a PhD in education policy from Maryland, where I've been a faculty instructor. I serve on the board of visitors of the College of Education, and I believe I have the right combination, both personally and professionally, to do what we want MCPS to do for all of us, which is to provide safe and supported schools for all our students and teachers. And I believe I am the right person to do that and bring that discipline back to the board.
Okay, and last but not least, Mr. Lansing.
Thank you very much for that. So my name is Omar Lazo. You probably learned today. I'm a son of immigrants from El Salvador, came here in 1975. And my mom, got to third grade. My dad was illiterate when he came to this country. And by the time I got to third grade, my parents couldn't help me with my homework. And they found Mr. Udick, an African immigrant that was studying at Howard University next door, in the apartment next door, to help me out. That story still is very... still happens here in Montgomery County to this day. I've spent most of my adult life working civically, which means I work for free for the county. But it's my life's passion to work for equity. And my journey started over 20 years ago. I've served on multiple boards. I've been appointed to the Board of Trustees by the governor, nominated by the county executive, county council. And I've proven, I have a proven track record. That's why I have all these endorsements, including MCEA, SEIU, County Executive, Speaker of the House, Senator Craig Zucker, goes on, almost 30 endorsements, because I've proven that I can do the job, and I hope that you'll vote for me. Omar Lazo for BOE.com. Thank you.
All right, so first of all, let's give them a round of applause. On behalf of the Fair Access Committee and the commissioners of the town of Poolesville, we want to thank you. You sat in the hot seat for an hour and a half and going through. And so we wish all of you good luck as you move forward, and thank you for taking the drive out.
Thank you. Thank you for turning out.
You guys will stay up there. We're going to do a picture, and we'll have our other commissioners. Sure. And our Fair Access Committee members.
I had to comb my hair.
Please get to come around this way here. Just go around to the front.